At one point, in the midst of your beef, I had a chance to speak to both of you individually. And I said, and Jay, you may recall, is there ever the possibility that you would ever work with the man sitting next? The streets is watching, they're definitely talking. Why here and why now?
It's bigger than both of us because it's not really about us. I mean, it is, but it really isn't. You know what I'm saying? It's more so about the culture and also about the ending and also about showing people another way.
It was always respect. It wasn't a point where, you know, he wanted to gun me down, I wanted to gun him. It was never that, you know, because that's not how I think how real bosses move or how real men
This
move.
video right here, this entails a saga of two of my favorite MCs of all time. They're both personally in my top 5 MCs of all time. And today, we're going to discuss the Jay-Z and Nas versus possible scenario if these two MCs were to go against each other in a versus battle. Now, recently, Memphis Bleek was in an interview and he stated that he didn't think Nas was nowhere near Jay-Z's level, and he felt that the only person that was worth competition to Jay-Z is
Would you like to see a Jay-Z Nas versus?
It's not. It's no comparison.
Why?
It's not because Nas don't have enough songs to compete, and there's no disrespect to him. He just don't.
Who is Jay's equal then if you were to do a versus?
Like I said, it would have to be somebody like Big. That was his only competition that I ever seen that he even felt was competition.
I disagree with that, but I'm not going to make this video disrespecting Memphis Bleek. But I do understand where Memphis Bleek is coming from. If you look at Jay-Z and Nas from Jay's level of success to Nas' level of success, at least in the commercial aspect of hip-hop, Jay is going to win that battle. But as far as MC to MC, we're going to use this opportunity to break down both Nas and Jay-Z's caliber of MCing in a potential versus scenario. And we're going to use this as an educational factor into going further along into why not only do I disagree with what Memphis Bleek said, but why these two brothers are at the upper echelon when it comes to MCing and hip hop. In the beginning of 2020, in the midst of the pandemic, Twitch Beats and Timberland started up this competition thing called Verzuz that would allow us to get some type of entertainment while many of us were quarantining at home. Now, the Verzuz situation to me is absolutely entertaining. You put certain artists against each other and they go down their whole entire catalog while at the same time giving some type of stories and feedback. Now, some of these Verzuz scenarios have been brilliant, some of them not so well. Just recently, we just had the Ja Rule versus Fat Joe versus competition. And although many people did watch it, it was less entertaining than per se the Gucci Mane versus Jeezy versus or the Dipset and Locks versus, which in my personal opinion is by far the best versus we've seen. And in the midst of all these verses, many people, including myself, have been speculating of a possible Jay-Z versus Nas versus competition. Now, as a hip-hop head and as a hip-hop MC, I would love to see Jay and Nas go at each other. But to be realistic, it may not happen due to the fact that these two brothers are in two totally different lanes in their lives. Jay-Z is a billionaire. He's more engrossed as a businessman nowadays than as an MC, whereas Nas, he just dropped one of the greatest albums in 2021 with King Disease 2. If I had to go catalog to catalog, it will be an interesting scenario of pitting these two against each other in a versus battle. Now let's look at the catalog of Jay-Z and Nas. Both of them have classic debut albums. Nas's Illmatic is regarded by a lot of people, including myself, as arguably the greatest hip-hop album of all time. The impact Nas had in 1994 was so phenomenal that many people considered Nas at that time the second coming of Rakim. Illmatic was one of the very few albums at that time to be credited 5 mics by The Source magazine. Now, for those of you youngins out there who are not familiar with The Source, back in the 90s and early 2000s, magazines were the way to get all of your hip-hop news and information, or to track out what albums were coming out in that certain amount of time. So in The Source magazine, which at that time was considered the Bible of hip-hop, towards the end of the magazine, they would do what is called a record review, where they would get certain artists' albums, and then they would give a critical analysis of the entire project. At that time, Nas had blew the entire underground scene in New York by storm. I mean, his clever rhymes, his punchlines, the way he vividly describes stories, it was absolutely incredible. You put in Illmatic right now, you go to New York State of Mind, it gives you an accurate, vivid description of life in the hood in New York City. Nas was just so talented and so great that he put other MCs on notice. MCs such as Nas changed the way rappers rhymed in the 90s. Now let's look at Jay-Z. Jay-Z had earlier influences in the late 80s from Big Daddy Kane, Jazzo, and eventually he went solo. So now Jay-Z at this point, in 95, 96, he was way less known than the Nas's, the Biggies, and Tupac. In 1996, Jay-Z comes out with his debut album, Reasonable Doubt. Now at that time, Reasonable Doubt didn't get as much praise as it does now, simply because in that era, in 96, there was so many great and dominant artists. There was so many dominant albums at that time. I mean, you had Tupac killing it with All Eyes on Me. You had Nas with It Was Written. You had The Roof, Illadelph Half Life. You had Redman, Muddy Waters. You had De La Soul, Stakes Is High. You had the Fugees. You had so many other artists dominating at this time that Reasonable Doubt at that time was mainly looked at as just another mafioso, drug-affiliated type of album. But Jay-Z was actually telling the life of a drug dealer in a more humble and vulnerable way that many years later, when many people started to embrace Reasonable Doubt, it was easily heralded as a classic album. At that time in 96, Reasonable Doubt only got 4 mics in the Source. 6 years later, they reversed it and gave it 5. To me, I'm going to give that edge to Nas, simply because that Nas's album, Illmatic, forever changed the landscape of how MCs rhyme. Whereas Jay-Z, he was gaining popularity at that time, but he did not make an immediate impact based off of Reasonable Doubt. That didn't come until later. Now, as far as MCing, I'm going to go with Nas over Jay-Z as MCing in the purest sense, because Nas has always been heralded as one of the greatest storytellers ever in hip-hop. His punchlines are second to none. He speaks a lot of knowledge itself in his lyrics, and the way he tells and the way he flows is just very intricate, to the point that when D'Angelo put out his album in 2000 entitled Voodoo, in his liner notes, he described the street force for MCs during that time trying to fight the style of Nas. Jay-Z has always been more of a freelance and freestyle type of artist. Remember, him and Biggie are one of the very few artists that go in the booth and just kill it while recording, and they don't even write their rhymes down. Now, Jay-Z is more of a, I would say, a balanced type artist, but you could tell that he'll dumb down his lyrics just to appease the general public. Jay-Z, over time, gravitated more to the mainstream audience that were not true hip-hop heads. And so Jay-Z's style became more commercial. He became more appealing. So from a pure MC sense, Nas is the pure MC. But as a more complete artist, I'm going to go with Jay-Z, because Jay-Z was still able to give you bars after bars, punchlines after punchlines, memorable quotes after memorable quotes. Whereas Nas, he was more laid back into his own zone. But when Nas got on the mic and spit, I mean, really, there ain't no competition.
And respecting the rap game at the level of Jay-Z and Nas means more than just talking the talk. It means you gotta walk the walk, which is what these two titans did in front of 20,000 fans at Jay-Z's I Declare War concert.
This is for our culture, this is for hip-hop, we love y'all!
What was originally meant to be a lyrical smackdown for Jigga's foes instead became a statement of unity.
Now, when it comes to commercial success, the edge easily goes to Jay-Z. Jay-Z has more #1 albums. He sold more multiple platinum albums. He's easily regarded by most people as either the GOAT or one of the GOATs. And he's been able to span his career over 3 decades. And that's very rare for any artist. And when you mention the top hip-hop MCs of all time, people automatically contribute that to Jay-Z. Jay-Z was able to take the culture to a whole another level outside of rap. Jay-Z became the astute businessman to the point where now he's a billionaire. He's I think he's the first MC to have some ownership stake in a basketball team, the Brooklyn Nets. Jay-Z was able to purchase Tidal music streaming service. Jay-Z was able to buy nightclubs and own alcohol, liquor beverages, and all of that stuff. So he diversified his portfolio as time progressed. Jay-Z also was the president of Def Jam Records from 2004 through 2007. Nas, on the other hand, although he has had success as well, numerous projects, numerous multi-platinum albums. It was written with double platinum. Stillmatic went double platinum. Nas, on the other hand, had a lot of commercial backlash due to the fact, I would say from I Am, Nostradamus, correction, from it was written to when he put out Stillmatic. In between those 2 albums, Nas had I Am, which lyrically is great, production line, and except for some songs. And Nostradamus, which many people consider that to be one of his worst albums ever. Nas was at a point where many people were starting to forget him. You know, lyrically, Nas has always been on point, but as far as his choice of beats, a lot of them were lackluster, which kind of brings you down in the upper echelon of having you at the ultimate top. Now, as far as him seeing, I'm always gonna put Nas up there. But as far as like complete artists of all time, Nas is still in that top 5 discussion, don't get me wrong, but you're gonna look at Jay-Z, Eminem, and maybe another artist before you get to Nas. So Nas kind of misses the mark when it comes to expanding himself as an artist, at least on the commercial. But Nas has been doing wonderful in terms of diversifying his portfolio. Nas has had a lot of deals that hit. I mean, he had a couple of investment business ventures that Amazon bought for, I think, $1 billion, and Nas walked away with at least about, what, 150 million both times? Only difference is Nas handled his businesses on the low and in the background, which I absolutely respect. In fact, I truly believe that brothers should take heed for how Nas conducts his business and do it more low-key, while at the same time learning something from Jay-Z and maximizing your potential. After all, both of these brothers have something to offer that we can greatly benefit from to help us advance financially. Now, in terms of a versus competition, many people think that Jay-Z would easily beat Nas because Jay-Z has way more commercial hits than Nas, but I'm going to disagree with the landslide victory that many people believe Jay-Z can just automatically win. And here's why. Due to what D-Block did to Dipset in their versus battle, the way that this versus has been going on lately, I think Nas could possibly win that battle in a very close battle. Now, I'm not saying that Nas is going to automatically win or Jay-Z is going to automatically win. I'm just saying that the tide of the battle can change. Think about it. These versus battle is very similar to how you want to move the crowd at a show. It's all about your timing of which songs you want to play. It's all about how you execute performing those songs. is all about crowd participation. It's about reaching the crowd. It's about, you know, doing all the major shit talking and all that, which do play a factor in this. And it's about precise timing. That's what made the Locks destroy Dipset in that verse. I mean, Jadakiss was able to call out Dipset and say, y'all rhyming over the words. If you're an MC like myself, you know that's a no-no. We don't even take you serious as an artist when you do that. Now, in Nas and Jay-Z's case, neither one of them really rhyme over their words. I mean, Jay-Z rocks with bands, Nas rocks with bands. So, their performance factor is going to be the determining factor in who ultimately wins the battle. The reason why I'm not too convinced on hits is because it's all about when you play the hits is when you're going to win the battle. Let's say if Jay-Z, for example, comes out with It's a Hard Knock Life. Nas can come back with either a commercial track or he can come out with a street banger. So let's use Hard Knock Life as a scenario. And Nas come back with
Whose world is this? The world is yours. The world is mine, it's mine, it's mine.
Or Nas comes back with
You can hate me now, but I won't stop now.
I'm just giving a possible scenario. And then Jay-Z can go into his bag of his underground hits.
I'm out for presidents to represent me. Get money, I'm out for them. Or ain't no like the one I got. No one can you better.
Or Nas can go with
If I rule the world, I free all my sons. I love them, baby.
I mean, this battle will be very interesting because both of these brothers have at least 3 decades of music to hit us with. And that's not even counting the features from both of them. In conclusion, all I'm simply saying, brothers and sisters, is that this is not an automatic landslide victory for Jay-Z. Of course, Jay-Z has the most commercial hits. Of course, Jay-Z has the most commercial success than Nas. But even Jay-Z himself would tell you, if you put him and Nas on the same stage at the same time, Esco will make Hov nervous. And that will make this battle even more interesting. Now, I'm not believing that this will actually happen in real time, but we're just projecting. We're just, you know, this is just a dream scenario or a dream possibility. This battle, to me, if it does happen, it won't take away from neither Jay-Z and Nas. They're both icons. They're both legends in the game. They're easily going to be, in most people's estimation, the top 5 MCs ever of all time. So this battle won't take away from their legacy. It will just give us hip-hop fans something to just embrace, enjoy, and just take a trip down memory lane. But for us MCs, it will give us that extra motivation to bring it on, to continue to grind and continue to evolve and continue to improve in our craft. Because after all, Jay-Z and Nas together, they got the echelon of what MCing is all about. They both represent hip-hop to the core. It will give me that nostalgic feeling of when I was a young teenager, getting into hip-hop culture, and truly falling in love with this culture, and this music, and this art. Because for me, over the past 23 years, it has been my life's calling. Both Jay-Z and Nas are huge influence and major factors of why I continue to do what I do. Salute to both Nas and Jay-Z for your legendary success, for the impact you have put on hip-hop culture. And although I would personally love to see you two brothers get together in New York City in Madison Square Garden for a Verzuz, I still enjoy and honor both of you brothers and your success and whatever you do in life, because you two are the epitome of what hip-hop is about. And I want to give you brothers your flowers while you here, because you two because you two brothers have given us 25 plus years of just remarkable, pure, quality-based hip-hop. And I learned something each and every day from you two MCs while I continue on my quest to become an even better MC. Peace and love. And may God bless every last one of you. And I thank Almighty Allah for allowing Jay-Z and Nas to give us two of the best hip-hop albums ever. Illmatic and Reasonable Doubt. Peace.
Presidents to represent me. Presidents to represent me.